Today on the Two Purple Carrots blogcast, we will be discussing my top 5 tips for new moms. This is incredibly relevant for me right now as I have stepped into my new motherhood journey and Luca turns 6 months today. So I hope these tips help. Hello everybody, my name is Lauren Keller and I am the founder of Two Purple Carrots. I'm an integrative nurse practitioner and a chronic illness and detoxification specialist. This blogcast is really just a smattering of life, motherhood, chronic illness, and wellness. So come join me on this journey as I muse, as I teach, and as I learn all about this journey of life. I know how ridiculously cliche it is to say rest when the baby rests. Everybody says it and everybody makes a joke about it. But now that I've experienced it for myself, I realized exactly how important it truly is. So things like chores, laundry, doing the dishes, those can actually be done when the baby is awake and on you. So you can wear the baby in the baby carrier and pass the vacuum through the house. You can do dishes with the baby in the baby carrier. You can heat up your food with the baby in the baby carrier. So don't use the time that the baby is sleeping to do chores in the home, at least in the very beginning, at least that 4th trimester until about 12 weeks, because you are up at all hours of the night. You are up every 1 to 3 hours, maybe more, until months later. And so don't underestimate what that fatigue can do to your health, and what that fatigue can do with the relationship that you have with your new baby. Sleep deprivation is a real issue in new motherhood or in new fatherhood. And so you want to take advantage as much as you can to rest when the baby is resting. Sometimes you don't get that option because a lot of times babies love the contact naps. But if you do have that option, your baby is sleeping in a safe place, please take that time to rest, or do something for yourself, like read a book, do a meditation, sit outside in the sun, something other than doing chores or cooking food, if at all humanly possible. So that brings me to my second tip, which is get help as early as you possibly can. I unfortunately did not do this, and I very much regret it. In those beginning phases, help might not look like taking care of the baby. Help could look like somebody cooking meals for you, getting a meal delivery service, getting a cleaning lady for a period of time, having in-laws come over and help you clean the house or do a load of laundry. And then after you start transitioning out of the 4th trimester, you might want to start getting help with the baby. And again, it's all how you feel about the situation. Although I think every mother is nervous about somebody else taking care of their baby. That is normal. We are meant to protect our children. They are meant to be with us the majority, if not all of the time. But I will say that mothers also matter. And their relationship with themselves also matters. And you will need some time to yourself, even if that is just a couple of hours a week. You need time to take a long shower, to meditate, to make yourself a meal that you love, to running to the store without the baby, just to have hands free and to be able to leave the house and get a breath of fresh air. To do some exercise or stretching, to read a book, to watch a series on Netflix. We need time to be able to decompress so that we can come back and be the best mothers that we possibly can be. I will say that the times where either Mark or a nanny watches Luca, when I come back to take care of him, it is like I am totally refreshed and I can be totally concentrated on him. For me, that was a better option than being totally frazzled and burnt out and then resenting him or resenting the motherhood process because I didn't have any time to do the things that fill me up. So if you have it within your budget or within your means, or you have family close, start requesting help earlier rather than later. Let people know what you need. Most people are happy to help. Truly, truly, people want to help, especially if they're your family and friends. So request a meal. I did that many, many times with Mark's family. I requested them to bring me over something to eat if they were coming to visit to see the baby. I ended up getting a nanny when the baby was around 4 months old, and the nanny's not here very often, but when she is here, it gives me time to take a shower, to do my meditation, to get some work done if I need to, and to just have some alone time for myself. So I know it's really scary giving up time with your baby, and you don't have to do it right in the beginning, but just request help in whatever way that might look like for you. Okay. So that brings me to my third tip, which is food prep. Now, I did most of my food prep during my pregnancy, and that's the best possible time that you can do food prep. So if you're watching this while you're pregnant, I totally recommend doing food prep. Keep in mind that lots of babies are sensitive to certain foods, such as dairy, gluten, chocolate, sometimes cruciferous vegetables. And so just try to keep some of the dishes safe from those foods. I put a lot of dairy in my food prep, and I totally regret that. If you didn't food prep when you're pregnant and you now have a newborn, ideally you have followed tip number 2 and gotten some help, did a food delivery service or something like that. But if you're needing to cook for yourself, remember that nourishment in the postpartum period is one of the most important times in your life to be adequately nourished. Okay? So don't reach for something fast and eat over the sink. It's extremely important that you sit down, you eat, and you nourish your body appropriately, especially if you've decided to breastfeed, because you are nourishing your little one with your own body. And so your body has to be in good shape in order to nourish your little one. So for me, what food prep looked like, so I had the first 6 weeks postpartum already prepped. The only thing I didn't have prepped was breakfast, and Mark actually was kind enough to make me breakfast every single morning for those 6 weeks. Now, I understand not everybody has that. So what I started doing after 6 weeks was I started food prepping. It took me about 3 hours, sometimes up to 4 hours, depending, one day per week. So what I would do is I would have Mark watch the baby, and I would do all of the food prep and then put it in containers for the week, freeze the second half of the week, and then leave the first 2 days in the refrigerator. So all I had to do was heat up the food. The only thing I didn't food prep for myself was breakfast, just because I eat a lot of eggs and avocado and things that I just couldn't food prep. But you can food prep breakfast as well. A lot of people do like egg casseroles and things, and so you could do that. So that's a huge burden off. What I found was that when the food started running out, we kind of got into this like, what do we eat? Who's going to cook it? And we were just kind of looking at each other like, I don't feel like cooking, but we need to eat. I'm like starving. And since we live in a tiny little village, there's no delivery service or anything like that. And so we had to cook something. So I really recommend food prepping as much as you possibly can. Ideally, your partner is able to watch the baby, or the in-laws can come over. Many times the grandparents would very much enjoy watching the baby for a couple of hours while you food prep. So I hope that helps. It's just a way to organize your week to take the stress off. And so all of these tips are just ways for you to de-stress from what it means to be a new mother. So that brings me to tip number 4, which is work out the responsibilities with your partner beforehand or very early in the motherhood journey. This was extremely important for us. We actually did some therapy sessions in order to work through the responsibilities of new parenthood, to make sure that we both felt seen and heard, and we both understood exactly what our roles were, especially in that immediate postpartum period, that fourth trimester. This is really important because we all have these expectations of what our partner is going to be like in the postpartum period, and they might not meet those expectations, and they have no idea that you have those expectations. So it's very important to actually talk these things through so that one or both parties don't feel disappointed or feel like they're doing a ton more work than what was originally planned. So since Mark and I both work, we knew that we were going to share responsibilities pretty heavily, especially as we started going back to our respective jobs. And so we made sure to talk about overnights. That's extremely important. Who's going to get up with the baby at night, changing diapers, making food, doing laundry, cleaning the house. So these are all things that you want to negotiate and discuss, ideally when you're pregnant, but very early in that postpartum period. And for us, it was actually helpful to write down sort of what we anticipated the postpartum period looking like. So I sort of anticipated that I would do much of the baby care and much of the night wakings just because I was exclusively breastfeeding. And it felt silly to me personally for both of us to be completely sleep deprived every single day when one of us could be sleep deprived and the other could take care of the dyad. So if you have a partner that is actually staying home for a period of time postpartum, that's one way to do it. During the day, Mark took care of all of the cooking. He made me breakfast every morning, and then he heated up any food that we had prepped while I was pregnant. He took care of the majority of the diaper changes, except for those at night. When I got up with the baby at night to breastfeed, I would change his diaper. And he did all of the laundry for those first 6 weeks and also cleaned the house on a daily basis. And then we actually decided to hire a house cleaner to come in once a week to do a deep clean on like the bathrooms and the kitchen. So that is what worked for us. And so you just need to find what works for you. I find that if there's not a good open line of communication, it leads to a lot of disappointment and a lot of resentment. And those emotions tend to fly when both parties are very sleep deprived and overwhelmed with the transition to new motherhood. Okay, I hope that one helps because that's a really big one to consider before going into motherhood, and a really big one to consider if you're already having some of those feelings with your partner. You might want to look into having a family meeting so you guys can discuss those responsibilities. Okay, this is my fifth and final tip for new motherhood. Follow your intuition. Your intuition as a mother is always correct. I promise you. I knew from the very beginning that something was wrong with the way that Luca breastfed. I sought out 3 different lactation consultants, 2 different pediatricians, a homeopath, body workers. I sought out a lot of people to try to help me figure this out. And it took us a very long time to figure out the best plan of action, but I followed my intuition at every step of the way. There were times that I doubted myself, and I think it probably elongated the process more than was necessary. And maybe we could have found help even sooner if I would have followed my intuition even more. And what I mean by that is when I would seek out these professionals to help me, and they would tell me that everything was totally normal with the way that he was feeding, I believed them for a while. There would be weeks that would go by and I would be sitting there just crying while feeding him because he was so anxious and unhappy and frustrated at the breast. And I was so frustrated and anxious and overwhelmed and feeling like I couldn't satisfy my child. I couldn't calm my child down. And even Mark was like, well, the professionals say it's fine. And I'm like, I know, but it's not. I just feel like he's hungry. And at the end of the day, we ended up finding out that he was hungry, and he ended up going from the 50th percentile to the 5th percentile in weight. And it took us a long time to find our team. Honestly, if it wasn't for a follower of mine on Instagram who let me speak to her sweet, sweet mother, who is a lactation consultant, I wouldn't even be where I'm at right now. It has been an amazing journey. I have learned so much about breastfeeding, about oral dysfunction, and we are still on that journey, but I'm hopeful that that journey is coming to a close within the next 6 weeks or so. So follow your intuition, mamas. If you feel like something is not right with your child, something is not right with your child. So continue to seek out help, even though I know how frustrating that could be, because I felt so frustrated when people would come to my house, see him feed, and tell me everything was fine when I could clearly see that nothing was fine, that he was dribbling and clicking at the breast and losing weight and crying. No baby cries when they're eating. So always, always follow your intuition. You will always know more than any professional. Also keep in mind, this was a hard thing for me to learn as well. Moms, you will always have more intuition about your baby than the dads will. I'm sorry, it's just the way it is. It's just biology. Moms, you actually have cells from your baby still in your body after the birth. And so you guys are connected for life. So what your baby feels, you feel in a much different way than babies and fathers do. And the father-baby relationship is extremely important, but it's not the same. So moms, even if dad doesn't notice the things that you're noticing or doesn't think it's a problem and you do, continue to seek out people that can help you because you're most definitely right. Thank you guys for watching the very first episode of the Two Purple Carrots blogcast. I hope all of you entering into new motherhood find these tips and tricks useful. Sending you guys so many prayers and blessings on this new journey.